Today's video, we're going to talk about are leads cheaper on Facebook than on Google Ads for your business or in your niche? Yes, but no at the same time. And I'm going to talk about why that is. That is, yes, they are cheaper at surface level. At first, if you're just cranking on a Facebook campaign, you're going to see right away that the lead cost definitely is cheaper. But is the quality the same? And that is generally, no, it is not. Not in all cases, but in most cases, the lead quality on Facebook is nowhere near what it's going to be on Google, assuming you know how to set up Google Ads correctly. Now, that can be fixed with some techniques I'm going to talk about on this video, certainly. Generally speaking, even if you are an expert in Facebook and you're an expert in Google Ads, Google's going to make more money than Facebook because the lead quality is much, much better. It's also much simpler to make money with, given with Facebook, you typically need a more advanced salesperson, sales staff, sales process, sales funnel in order to make Facebook work. Whereas on Google, once the person calls and they're already interested, assuming you're talking about buying searches, you're not going to market an ebook, something like this, they're just ready to buy. And any average secretary can close a sale in many/most instances. Whereas with Facebook, you don't have somebody who knows how to build rapport with the user, you're not going to close very many deals. Even if your ad says, we offer cleaning services, and they reply, it's still going to take a higher caliber of person to close that sale than if somebody who responded to your Google carefully markets your expertise in the cleaning service space, and then they call. It's just a different ballgame. I'm going to talk about 3 different markets, what our cost per lead was, so you can see the difference when we run ads on Google as well as Facebook ads for the same things. Even though it's profitable to do in all 3 of these different niche markets, it's a lot more profitable for one versus the other based upon the propensity of the platform doing more or less for that business in that niche, just based upon what niches it's in. So I'm going to talk about what those examples are and case studies so you get a firm understanding of how this can ultimately go in your market. Will it go to your favor, that is Facebook ads are better to run, or Google? Most of the time, I can tell you on an overall basis, it's going to be Google. But I'll get into detail on these examples here. We had a roofing company that we dealt with, a regional roofing company, where we wanted to really go to town to every last ad platform we can. On Google, which is similar to how I'm going to get results in pretty much any other metro market, our cost per lead was $125, which I'm rounding these numbers, by the way, to the closest 5, if you're wondering. And our closing rate was an average of 20%, which gives us an average cost per sale of $625, which is really cheap for roofing, given that the average roof now is $10K plus, depending on the market you're in. So that's an excellent return. Now, on Facebook ads, on the other hand, we ran ads on Facebook. We were getting a cost per lead of only $55. Now, this is, again, where I said earlier, if you're inexperienced with Facebook, you're just trying to crank it on for the first time. At first, you're like, why am I even doing Google ads? And the reality is they start to, after a few weeks or a month or a couple months, they start digging into the lead level data, or maybe they don't, they're just clueless and they try to convince themselves that they are genius, and they realize it's not so great. Why? Because the closing rate's much less. And this is even with a good offer, which generally speaking with Facebook, you gotta have an offer. And that's the other main difference with monetizing Facebook versus Google. And I'm gonna talk about that. We had an offer where we offered roofing financing. People, if they need a roof and they know they need a roof, what stops them is having the 15 grand for the roof. So what we do here and in other markets is we say $89 a month roofing plans apply here. So a person who needs the roof, they know that every day they don't replace the roof, their attic is getting more and more mold in it, we get the lead. We are able to pull forward that demand from that user right there and using that technique. Even then, we only had a 4% closing rate on our leads. So even though our cost per lead's only $55, much cheaper than Google, closing rate's much lower. Our cost per sale is basically more than double what it is over here on Google. Even though we had a good offer, we got a good response rate, we got a good cost per lead. And of course, part of this too is a lot of the people that reply are not going to be qualified. Their credit's crap, they don't have a job, whatever. And so for every one lead that replies, you got 3 bad ones. That's right off the top. Then, of course, of the people that are left, you're still only going to close like 10% of those. That's why, for the most part, the lead quality is lower. This is also saying in the fine print on the ad still that you have to have good credit and apply. People a lot of times ignore this anyway or don't read it or whatever. But even if you may say, well, Corey, why don't you just say roofing services, contact us? This type of thing is what newbies that are starting to advertise on Facebook will typically do. And it does work for some markets to be direct like this. Roofing isn't going to be the one. Why? Because anybody knows they can go to Google and type in roofing company at any time. So why am I going to interrupt my fun little day that I'm having here scrolling on Facebook to respond to this ad? There is no reason. And for that matter, the few that you do get to actually respond because it was like perfect timing and they really liked the fact that you have great reviews, whatever, that's going to bring up your lead costs so much that it's not going to make sense anymore to do it. To give you an idea in the roofing space, what do you think our lead cost is going to be if we go with that direct approach versus the financing offer? Lead cost is going to be upwards of $1,000 a lead, trying to find that perfect person who's considering buying a roof this month because they have to this month, and they're getting quotes from roofing companies this month. It's 1 out of 1,000 people you're targeting that's buying a roof this month that you're going to be able to get in front of, which is why your lead cost is going to be higher, because you may say, well, the ad says roofing services and I don't have to pay if they don't click on the ad. Why would the lead cost go up so much? That is the wrong way to think about it. You actually are paying for every person who doesn't click on it. At the end of the day, there's no free lunch. If your click-through rate on your ad is less, your cost per lead goes up because you're paying per impression. You can't just be like, unless you have $1 million to give me, don't click on this ad and then you get rich. Like if that were the case, everybody would be rich. You got to have a compelling way. It costs the same amount of money to advertise to 1,000 people every single time. You got to have a way to get a high percentage of those 1,000 to respond. Otherwise, your cost per click goes up astronomically, and then therefore your cost per lead goes up astronomically as a result of this. So even though you would get a higher closing rate when you pay $750 for a lead, the math doesn't math anymore. So you got to have an offer. You got to have a good offer, at least for a commodity thing. Now, if you're offering some, outdoor barbecue setup service where they don't really know that kind of thing exists, you can just go directly to them and say, hey, that's what I offer. And it already works great. But if you're just doing some plain Jane, same old commodity thing like roofing, you generally got to have an offer. If it's going to be profitable, at least. You can lose your money if you want to. I'm going to say this, I don't like that kind of thing. For that matter, that's a great example of Google versus Facebook for a basic general everyday market where we're talking about residential roofing, B2C. Now, going into the commercial cleaning company that we work with, we were getting a cost per lead on Google of about $130. We're getting a closing rate on our leads of about 25%, which is an average of $520 per client per sale, which is very profitable again. Which, by the way, what I typically do for clients, at least it's just what I do at our agency, we're going to start out with Google, and then we're going to bring Facebook in later on, and we're going to try to make it work. Given that Facebook's more of a wild card, we got to figure out an offer, a hook that works, and get it drilled in. Also, we have to be able to find a way to make the sales process works. We got to refine who sees the ad. It makes sense. We got to make sure the sales process is refined. There's a lot going on there, whereas with Google, it's very formulaic. At least with my skill level doing it for 20 years now, I know basically exactly what to do with this. Because if somebody responds to your Facebook ad and they like what they see and they're not ready to buy right then, and then they go to search for you on Google and you're not there, you just benefited your competitors and you have a leaky sales funnel that's too leaky in general, and you're not going to want to do that. At the very least, you would want to be breaking even on your search campaign so that your Facebook will work, because not everybody's going to buy right away. You can't expect that. For the commercial cleaning company, our offer was to have a free initial cleaning, which we do on the residential side. We also do this on the commercial side, even though residential, it works better. And for that, our cost per lead was $140. Closing rate on the leads was 6%, and an average deal size or deal cost, $2,333. If you're wondering if Facebook works for B2B, yes, it does. Is this still profitable? Yes, it is. This is very, very profitable. This is just kind of, ultimately, if you're looking at average value of a contract over time and so forth. But that shows you a great example of how Facebook's going to measure up against Google, even though we have a good offer. Now, I'm not a know-it-all here. Of course, somebody could come up with a better offer than me and get this to be not to where there isn't so much of a disparity between the cost per sale here versus here, but I couldn't necessarily come up with any good one. I mean, if I'm a business who needs a cleaning service, if I need it for our own agency, really, unless I know I need it because the person that I have now sucks and I've already committed to hiring somebody else, I'm not going to respond to your ad. And even then, I'm not going to respond to your ad. I'm going to go to Google and do my research, and I'm going to look at reviews, and I'm going to do a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to pick the company. I'm not going to pick some random company on Facebook. If you gave me a free cleaning to test you out, yeah, I'll certainly try it out, and then that'll help me get the business. But other than that, I can't really think of too much as a business owner that's going to compel me to stop what I'm doing on Facebook right then and there and respond to this commercial cleaning company. The biggest factor of all when it comes to your Facebook ads is going to be the offer. Offer, offer, offer. And that's why most people can't get results with Facebook ads, because either they don't know they need an offer, they don't know how to create an offer, or they're not willing to create an offer. People expect people to just come to them, be a lay down sale. They're looking to buy right now and have no questions hardly. And that's not how you make money outside of search engine. You got to come up with an offer. You got to get people to respond. You got to have a sales process. Most people, they don't want to do that. They're just like, Corey, I don't want to deal with somebody who wants free shit. I just want them to buy. They're going to waste my time. Which is a bunch of bullshit, because I know plenty of companies where we give free trials out and we make millions of dollars a year doing it. You just have to understand that you have to come up with a sales process. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You're just going to make a small fraction of the money you're going to make in your market, because the search engine ads are very limited. There's only so many people searching on a regular basis, and that's it. And that's all you're going to get. And you can optimize the hell out of it and make your $1 million a year. But if you want to make 5 in a lot of markets, you got to be able to figure out how to get display to work. Facebook in particular. With that said, that's commercial cleaning. Now, we had a closet remodeling company, which if you don't know about this, if you have a walk-in closet, you can get them remodeled. You have a smaller closet, you can get organizers, shelves, all this stuff put in there. There's companies that just specialize in this. Just like there's companies that specialize in garage renovations, basement renovations, stuff like this. In this market, we're paying $70 on average per lead, closing 15% on average, and have an average cost per sale of $467, which, if by the way, as a quick lesson here, the closing rate on your leads from Google Ads is going to be less. The more variability there's going to be in the people that are responding. If somebody responds looking for a roof, they pretty much already know what buying a roof is like. When they respond to get a closet renovated, they really don't understand the process. And they may just certainly find out it's too expensive or it's not what I thought it was. But with Google Ads, it's rare that we're going to get less than like an 8% closing rate. 8% would be like where we're selling mobile homes, stuff like that. Local service-wise, it's at least 10%, no matter what you're doing. For the same business, closet remodeling, on Facebook, we're paying $45 a lead, so a lot less than Google again. But also, the closing rate here, the big takeaway here is we're only at 12% on the closing rate versus 15% over here. So almost the same closing rate as Google. Why is that? Well, just like what I mentioned a second ago. People that are responding on Google think they kind of know what they want, but they really aren't quite totally sure what this service is truly all about. Whereas with Facebook, it's the same thing. So there's not so much of a disparity. Whereas with the roofing, and you respond on the roofing, and you got to have an offer there, versus with this closet remodeling company, we can just say, hey, we offer closet remodeling. Look at what we can do. The quality of the lead's a lot closer because we're going with a direct pitch, and because on Google, they're less qualified in general to start out with, and it's a lot closer to the type of guy you would get on Facebook just responding out of the blue. What this did was made Facebook more profitable per customer than the Google search ads were. $375 cost per sale versus $467. So this was one market where Facebook actually is more profitable than Google, proving Facebook can be more profitable than Google. However, 80% of the time plus, Google is going to be more profitable than Facebook. And I know that because I've been in hundreds of markets. We've done this countless times. That's generally how it goes. If you want to know what the likelihood of Facebook being better than Google. Generally speaking, more than 50% of the time, Facebook can be profitable. It can add extra customers. You get extra customers, extra clients in your business using Facebook ads, and it'll be profitable for you to do so. It's just going to be more profitable for you to run the Google ads than it is like on a per customer basis. You'll make a greater margin than you will with Facebook ads. So you're going to try it. And like I said before, your best bet is, generally speaking, do Google, get it locked in, take part of the money you're making to get Facebook going, test a bunch of ads, test a bunch of offers, hook up CRM integration with your Facebook lead ads, or do offline conversion tracking to train the algorithm on the type of people that you want to respond, refine your sales process to get it really well set up. And then now you've got another revenue stream for your business. Just know it's going to take some more finesse, generally speaking, even though also with the upside being that there's a lot of markets where we're going to be making 3 to 5 times as much money on Facebook than we are on Google. One, for instance, being in the window installation market, where there's a bunch of people on Google that we can get, and we can make $1 million a year in a mid-sized market running the Google search ads correctly. You can make several million on Facebook doing it right, because just that much more opportunity. Everybody needs windows at some point in time. There's very few people searching on a monthly basis for them. Roofing is the other one, by the way. The volume is going to be much greater on Facebook. So yes, it takes a lot more finesse and work and skill and all that. You may have to hire an expert to help you make it work on Facebook as a very high level to make it work. The upside being absolutely changes everything in terms of economics of your business, in terms of the amount of leads it brings in. Even though the margins aren't as great, you're going to bring in a lot of volume through it. There's some key facts that I want you to know to take away from this video, in addition to the information about 3 markets I talked about here today, and relation to Google and Facebook ads and what you have to know about each. Before I do though, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you should. I've got the best information you're going to find online about how to make money with ads on this channel, given to you by somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy and testing out of a firm. I've got a great blog on my site to go along with this channel. You can find that at guaranteedppc.com/blog. You can find step-by-step information on how to make money with ads there from myself. It's a great secondary resource. I've got all the knowledge to answer all your questions that you possibly would have about ads. If you have a direct question for me, you can always leave me a comment section. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel. You can also reach out to me through my Discord group. I've got a link to that in the video description. You can also reach out to me through my site at guaranteedppc.com, of which I do coaching and consulting. I do full-on PPC management services where I manage your ads on Google, Facebook, wherever you're running the ads. And with that, do not charge a management fee of what I cannot get you a increase in profitability of your ads up front or to a certain minimum level of profitability. And I also offer ad templates. If you are in a market that I've already been in before, I can tell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we did with none of the hard work that I had to go through and money that I had to spend to find out the perfect way to run ads in your market. It's like having a business in a box, essentially buying the template from us that works on a certain niche market in another city or country that you're in, that you can apply in your own geography for your own purposes. Key things to know about Google Ads. Number 1, it's better for commodity offers. That is, Google will typically beat Facebook for a commodity. Moving services, roofing services, stuff like that, at least from an ROI standpoint and margin standpoint. Volume standpoint is a different story, which is why you're still going to want to do Facebook. It needs less refinement. Why? Because once you basically know what you're doing and you have the fundamentals on how to actually run Google Ads correctly, not to be a bozo and run broad match keywords, to not have landing pages, and all this stuff like this, not have tracking. Once you know all the fundamentals, it's very, very formulaic to the point where, like at our firm, we offer a guaranteed result. You do X, Y, and Z strategies that the customer wants and that the competition's not willing to do. You put them in place. It's very turnkey in the results. Of course, you have to wait some time for your ads to get broken in, but once the break-in period's over, it's like guaranteed money in terms of what you're going to make. And then it's a straightforward pitch. You don't have to be a genius to come up with this brilliant hook/offer where you're offering something for a one-time discount, or come in and guess how many keys are in this jar and you'll get a car. You have to come in to enter your guess to drive people, foot traffic into a car dealership, stuff like that to get people's interest for a car dealership. You don't have to do all that funny business. You just have to tell people what they came for. If they came for a Honda Civic air intake, you tell them exactly that. If they came for cleaning services, they don't want to know anything else other than, do you do it? Do you cover their area? And can they trust you? And the more you mess around trying to beat around the bush, the less money you make, because you're wasting their time, essentially. So the quicker you can convey those things, the more you make. Whereas with Facebook, it's, yes, you've got to communicate quickly, but you don't go direct. It's just completely the opposite, at least in a non-interesting, non-commodity market, like with the closet remodeling company, where you have something interesting there and then you can go direct. So for the Facebook ad side, Facebook is better for niche offers. If you have something interesting, you have the outdoor barbecue, you have the outdoor TVs that you can offer that are really cool looking. Facebook is the better thing because you can get in front of people and just say, hey, this solution exists, buy it. Whereas with Google, they're not really searching for it. That's going to be your main way that you're going to sell for your market. It needs more refinement though, of course, with Google. Once you understand the keywords to target and to not target them in broad match, target them in exact match, there's not that much refinement that goes on. Yes, you still have to add negative keywords, but there's not that much to do. Whereas with Facebook, this audience, this ad versus that ad copy, this offer versus this other offer, 1x lookalikes versus 3x, on and on. So there's a bunch of different stuff that you're gonna have to test with Facebook in order to get things to work. And then you need creative sales processes or a creative pitch / creative funnel. You're gonna have to come up with that offer, like offering the first month free or a free sample or whatever. So in order to get people to care about your ad and respond to it, you're probably gonna need a better salesperson, like I spoke about earlier. You probably are gonna need a funnel to where once they respond, first of all, you have to respond within 5 minutes or they're not gonna remember filling out your form when you call them, which is a big thing with Facebook ads, why our clients don't make money with it when they don't. They're not doing that. And then they also don't do text follow-ups. They don't do email follow-ups, which are all part of getting results out of Facebook ads, because this is fleeting interest versus strong interest that you're working with. You got to have that. You got to really focus on what happens after the lead comes in, and you also have to focus on what's going to actually get someone's attention. You don't have to mess around with all that on Google Ads, but it's just going to be limited. You're only going to get so much out of it. In some markets, you'll make $5-10 million a year just running search ads. You don't have to do Facebook. I would say half or more markets, though, if you're really going to get to that level, you're going to have to figure out Facebook as well. So don't neglect it necessarily. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.